AGC co-creators, Lilou here. I'm in front of the beautiful pyramids of Le Louvre with Dr. Carmen Boulter. Oh my goodness, here we are to talk about the mysteries of the pyramids and the Egyptians. How fantastic. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. Nice to see you.
Oh, this is wonderful. You just came back from a Mary Magdalene tour. You're a former, I should say, professor from Calgary University. You did so much research, and you were the main research behind the Pyramid Code TV series. And so we have much to talk about. Oh my goodness. So tell us, let's start with why did you started really being interested about those pyramids, and why are they so important, and why are we all starving for this information?
I started having past life memories when I was a really little girl, and it was all about Egypt. But I think it holds the mysteries to who we can be, and the idea of the empowered human was really well represented with the Egyptians, and we've really deviated from that, and I think it's time to come back to an idea where we can be free and we can love and be open with one another and work magic and all of the things that the ancient initiates were doing.
Because they knew a lot, didn't they? They already had a very advanced technology that we're really starting to dig now, and that we could even apply in our life?
Well, yes, and we look at them as if they're infantile, and there's so much that's coming out now about how the Egyptians understood quantum physics. And if you look at hieroglyphics, it's really about quantum technology. And we've tried to say this is an A, this is a B, you know, when there's so many Egyptian hieroglyphics that we can't possibly shove it into English or anything we know. But because we didn't understand them, we made decisions about them that are really not fair. Because they understood cosmology, they understood biology, they understood high-level science and magic.
Tell us more. I really want to understand deeply the Egyptian and what you came across during your research about them and their technology and all of it, because I know you have so much knowledge here. This is like treasure.
Well, I was very curious about the pyramids, and the first time I was in there was all these apparitions in my pictures, and I actually it was 1977, and I took my camera to a camera store and said, "What's the matter with my camera?" And they said, "Nothing, it's not broken." And so now we're taking pictures of orbs and plasma beings, and if you look at my website, you'll see this huge holy grail of the sacred feminine, I called it. But all of these different light bodies are there, and they're showing themselves to us. The ancient Egyptians were all about implosion energy instead of explosion energy, which is non-polluting, and we have access. Well, there's lots of free energy devices that have been created now, but they've all been repressed. But somehow the ancient Egyptians were able to harness this technology in a really safe way, and they understood the transmutation of the atom, which is really at the root of all of their secrets. And so they were telepathic. They could manifest from other dimensional frequencies. Levitation was connected to the anti-gravity that helped them build the pyramids. Bilocation was normal. Teleportation was something that they could learn to do. And then alchemy was taking one substance and turning it into something else. This was normal. Now, there were always going to be farmers and common people, but then the ancient Egyptians, the initiates, were trained to be able to harness this kind of energy. And so it's still largely misunderstood, but there are clues in the temple frescoes and in the artifacts that were left. So if we know how to look at what they were doing, we can see that they were really giving us a lot of clues.
We know from quantum physics that the observer actually changes the story, right? So could it be that you see some clues where some others would just not see it? How does that influence the whole story now that you're putting together?
Well, even me taking pictures and going there 27 times and reviewing the pictures almost obsessively, all of a sudden I start to see things that I didn't see before. So these clues are creeping toward us. But I subscribe to the notion of past life recall, and I think that in those days we had future pacing. And I think we left clues for ourselves, knowing that we were going to come into this densification and the bloodbath, blood from death instead of blood from life. So it's my conviction that ancient Egyptian culture was matriarchal, balanced between the masculine and the feminine, and insisted on that. And so we have deviated so far from that, lopped off the sacred feminine, had everything be patriarchal, and it's really damaged our perception, damaged it desperately. And so now, as the energy frequencies lighten up and we have access to more dimensions, we're starting to understand it. But those same clues were there way back in 1977, but all of a sudden, all of the pieces are revealing themselves.
How ancient are they, those pyramids?
No one can ever know. And there's, usually people who are tied to academia will move inch by inch, a couple of thousand years beyond what they say, 2450 BC, but that's absolutely impossible. So if we look at the precession of the equinoxes, which are 26,000 year cycles, and the fact that 13,000 years ago we had world floods, they weren't going to be building the pyramids in a time of destruction. So it would have to be a precession and a half, 2 precessions ago. I'm willing to go as far as 50,000 years ago. And I really, for a lot of reasons, have come to think that the reason we can't understand the pyramids is we've wiped out the civilization and the understanding of who they could be way back then.
Why were they wiped out?
Why was what wiped out?
Why were those ancient teachings and knowledge? Why didn't we carry it all along? Why are we rediscovering it only now?
Even in the ancient traditions in Egypt, there were cycles of time, and the Amun priesthood represented Amun, which is the shadow and the dark. And as we approach December 21st, 2012, we're coming into the dawn, which is Heper. And I think we go through cycles of light and cycles of dark. So if we look at the larger cycles, the Yuga cycles, we're at the bottom of the Iron Age, which is again the darkness. And so as we progress toward the Golden Age, there's a more refined frequency that allows telepathy and all the things I said with the transmutation of the atom and the abilities. And then as time went down 13,000 years, it got denser and denser and denser. If we look at the Mayan calendar for 5,000 years, 3113 BC was the first dynasty. And so that's patriarchy beginning. And so even in Egypt, it became more and more warring, more and more patriarchal. But in the early times, it was matriarchal. And so matriarchy is not the opposite of patriarchy, where you lop off the masculine and the women are thumping their chests. Matriarchy insists on a balance. And so I think it's energetic, and I think it's cyclical, and I think we're just turning the corner and being able to realize what the ancients knew before.
The material that they were using, the shape of the pyramid, all that is not just a coincidence. It amplifies, it's an amplificator, isn't it?
Well, in a very big way. And I just got the Eiffel Tower in my view here. And until the Eiffel Tower was built, the Great Pyramid was the tallest building in the world. And then the Eiffel Tower became the one. There's 2.3 million stones. Everything in the Great Pyramid is connected to nature. And in the ancient language, it was per neter. And so it was a house of nature. So all of the different cosmological calculations, the distance to the moon, the circumference of the earth, even the position of the pyramids reflect a sky-ground correlation. And so it is so incredibly sophisticated. The fact is, we don't have the technology to take the pyramids down. They're considered un-Islamic. They tried to bomb them, and they're solid, and they were meant to last. It's also Grand Central Earth grid. And so there are pyramids all the way around the world. We're discovering more and more all the time now. And so the whole system was about giving energy to humanity and maintaining the Earth grid. And so the sophistication and how they were built, and the fact that you can't even put a piece of paper through some of the joins is just amazing. Now, there's many theories about how the pyramids were built. Nobody knows for sure. I've always thought that those stones could have been poured. And Joseph Davidovich has done a lot of experimentation with taking crumbled limestone and natron, which was used for mummification, and creating a sludge and tamping it down inside these wooden, I don't even know, frames, if you will. And that the stones can't be told, you can't tell if it was carved and the original stone. And so there's a lot of this technology now that is explaining a little bit about how they could have been done. And but still, the technology is way beyond what we're capable of now.
Yeah. And they are interlinked. You're saying they're all interconnected for you.
Well, yes, and in the pyramid code, the idea of the band of peace, 22 pyramids, starting with Abu Raush to the north, Giza, which is what most people think of as the pyramids, and then moving down, a total of 6 different sites. They're connected to star systems, and I've done a lot of work in Starry Night Pro, which is a computer program that replicates the heavens, that can rotate back 99,000 years BC and 99,000 years AD. And if you take arbitrary star systems and you move them back and forth, they all fall apart. And so if you look at the extragalactic grid with Sirius at the center, and just a note here that one of the shafts in the Great Pyramid points to Sirius always. Well, how can that be? And so if you look at Sirius and Orion, which Robert Bauval gave us as the Giza Plateau, and keep going to Abu Sir being the Pleiades and Dashur being Cygnus, if you keep going along that meridian, what do you hit? The galactic center. And if you rotate that configuration back and forth, it never comes apart. So there's something about the ancients that understood that they understood the solar system, they understood the galaxy, they understood our place in the universe. And that's left there. So if you look at the pyramids, you may think that they're just scattered, but they're not.
Can you mention just some of those other 6 sites, apart from in Egypt?
The sites on the Band of Peace? Yeah. Abu Raush is the one to the north, which is connected to Sirius. Giza is the next one south, which is connected to the Orion. Then you go to Abu Sir, which is the Pleiades. Saqqara is the next one, and I haven't figured out which star connection. And then Dashur, which is Cygnus. Now Dashur has the red pyramid, white pyramid, black pyramid, and so does Giza. So the Great Pyramid would have been white. The second pyramid still glows red, and the third pyramid could have been black, but those are the colors of the Virgin Mother and the crone, which speaks to matriarchy.
Could we say, and did you find out that they had contact with extraterrestrial beings, other light beings in the universe to receive this information? Sorry, okay. Sorry for the noise. There's a lot of noise. Of course, this is a very touristic area. We have a big fountain in the background, and lots of people are moving and shaking. This is part of real life, and we're having a real life conversation, talking now of the extraterrestrial beings that might be involved in this.
If you think of now, when people channel and connect to Archangel Michael or Mother Mary or various entities that come from the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, that's not within the common culture that's shown on the media. But we have access to higher level beings if we can clear ourselves, and there are ways to communicate with them. Now, one of my favorite sayings is that weird isn't weird anymore. That used to be weird, but the ancient Egyptians were constantly contacting higher level beings. So whether they came down in ships or physically were walking around, it is kind of a misconception, because we haven't been allowed to talk about extraterrestrials really, and all of the files of sightings, have been hidden, and they're starting to be disclosed in Brazil, Argentina, various places are Russia. They're disclosing their UFO files. But it's impossible to do research if all of the information has been hidden. But I subscribe to the idea that we could have somehow contacted higher level beings that gave us information. So many indigenous cultures will talk about the ancient teachers, and that's probably where the star knowledge came from. It's still the biggest mystery we have.
Do we know some of their practice? Did you find out what they were actually, that was part of their daily practices of Egyptians back then that maybe we could apply in our own life?
Okay, well, the high-level initiates were trained, and the chakra system started at the Temple of Isis with the root chakra, and they practiced sex magic there. But as the initiates moved up the Nile, they would process on the area of a particular chakra, which is connected to the glandular system. So for instance, at Kamumbo, it's the digestion, and they were digesting their fears. And so they would put the initiates through tests where they had to swim with crocodiles, and they had to face their fears. You moved up to the heart chakra, and then you moved up to the crown chakra, which would have been the Giza Plateau. But the initiates were human divining rods, is what I say. And so the cosmic energy can't touch the earth, and the telluric energy can't touch the cosmos without some kind of a conduit. And so when you think about our neural synapses, they don't touch. A hormone jumps across to give the connection for our hands for our brain to help us move. And so there was something about the way the high-level initiates were connecting the cosmic energy to the telluric energy. And all of this sounds strange, but to me, it's quite normal.
Yes, and you've dedicated your life to it. I'm so grateful for this conversation. You have your voice, yes, and we're here in front of the pyramid. Thank you so much, Carmen. Thank you for your time, and I really encourage you to see the Pyramid Code and so many wonderful books and other information that is out there on this topic. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Lulu.
Much, much love from beautiful France. Bye, my delicious co-creators.
Work magic and all of the things that the ancient initiates were doing.
Because they knew a lot, didn't they? They already had a very advanced technology that we're really starting to dig now and that we could even apply in our life?
Well, yes, and we look at them as if they're infantile, and there's so much that's coming out now about how the Egyptians understood quantum physics. And if you look at hieroglyphics, it's really about quantum technology. And we've tried to say this is an A, this is a B, you know, when there's so many Egyptian hieroglyphics that we can't possibly shove it into English or anything we know. But because we didn't understand them, we made decisions about them that are really not fair. Because they understood cosmology, they understood biology, they understood high-level science and magic.
Tell us more. I really want to understand deeply the Egyptian and what you came across during your research about them and their technology and all of it, because I know you have so much knowledge here. This is like treasure.
Well, I was very curious about the pyramids, and the first time I was in there...
Why did you started really being interested about those pyramids, and why are they so important, and why are we all starving for this information?
I started having past life memories when I was a really little girl, and it was all about Egypt. But I think it holds the mysteries to who we can be And the idea of the empowered human was really well represented with the Egyptians. And we've really deviated from that. And I think it's time to come back to an idea where we can be free and we can love and be open with one another. And
with Dr. Carmen Boulter. Oh my goodness, here we are to talk about the mysteries of the pyramids and the Egyptians. How fantastic. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. Nice to see you.
Oh, this is wonderful. You just came back from a Mary Magdalene tour. You're a former, I should say, professor from Calgary University. You did so much research, and you were the main research behind the Pyramid Code TV series. And so we have much to talk about. Oh my goodness. So tell us, let's start with hello, my juicy co-creators. Lilou here. I'm in front of the beautiful pyramids of Le Louvre.